Okay, welcome to the 98% podcast where we hear real stories from real people. And I'm here with Kyle. So, Kyle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Kyle Zimmerman. Right now I'm living in Sedalia, Missouri. Graduated from school of the Osage back in 2007. Um, Only went there for 2 years, but it felt like I was there for all 13. Great community, met a lot of great people, still keep in contact with a ton of them. Currently I teach sixth grade PE and I coach high school baseball.
It's awesome. It's great that you're only at Osage for 2 years because it seems like you got integrated with everybody so much in just those 2 years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first day walking in the door, it was almost like, the very first person I met was Trey Kelly. He looks back, we're both walking in the door together and he looks back and he goes, "Hey, are you new here?" And I said, "Yeah, it's my first day." And he goes, "All right, come with me." And I mean, it was just like I'd always been there after that. It was really amazing. And, moving high schools in between your sophomore and junior year can be a really scary thing. And, everybody just welcomed me with open arms and made me feel like home right away. It was pretty awesome.
Awesome. That's Trey's personality. I'm trying to get him on the podcast. I don't know if he's going to hop on or not, but I've tried.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But
Oh
that
man.
was him to a T though. He was so good at just including people. He's just a real thoughtful, kind guy. So,
Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely.
okay, cool. So then we'll start off with the first question, which is, how do you know me?
So you were also one of the ones that I met when I moved to Osage. Graduated together, and honestly, I mean, didn't really start to get to know you until Dace Jam 1. When everybody kind of got back together for that, and we've been able to hoop around a little bit and been able to talk in between and things like that. So
Yeah, yeah. It was interesting because I just don't think we had any classes or anything together in high
right,
school. So it's like we didn't really cross paths. I remember you, and I think we might have had gym or something random together or something,
yeah,
but
right.
we really didn't have much together. So yeah, same thing. Yeah, it was a Dace Jam, and you all were grateful enough to let me play on your team,
Yeah,
which
yeah, no, it was
you know,
great. Yeah.
yeah, it was a good time. What was it? Me, you, and Grider. Who else
Yeah.
did we have anybody else on there?
So it's me, you, and Greider, and then I brought a buddy from Sedalia, which is where I moved from. We've been friends since sixth grade, and his name is Cody Hammond. So that was
Uh,
that first team, and I can't remember if did we have a fifth or did we just have four? I don't remember honestly.
I
I
want
felt
to.
like we maybe just had four.
That's what I thought. I thought it was just four.
Yeah.
Dude, I still remember the first year and being or just that games. Just I think the most memorable game was when we had to play the kid and his dad
Yes,
and mom. I felt so bad because
I
we didn't
know.
we lose didn't we lose like every other game except that one?
I think so. Yeah. I
And
think we had a couple close ones, but that was the only one where, we pulled it out and yeah, it was just like, all right, who's going to guard who here? And, like, how do you not, how do you not be a poor sport about it? And, how do you make sure that everybody has a good experience with it? Because, I mean, again, at the end of the day, that's what Dace Jam's all about, is having that good experience and bringing people together for a good cause. And so, yeah, that one was tough, but, I guess it was good for us.
it was good. Dude, you had no mercy on that kid either.
Yeah. Well, and that's the funny part. So, being a sixth grade PE teacher and being around, kids like that all the time, like, as long as they know that you're just messing around with them and as long as they know that you're having fun with it, like, they love that stuff. Like, they just, that if, as long as they know that there's goodness in your heart, you can kind of get away with some of that stuff, but if you're just out there, pushing and shoving and just being mean just to be mean, like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's not the right way to do it. But
Yeah, that was funny. Okay, cool. So what we're gonna do, just for anybody tuning in for if this is their first episode, so how this works is we bring a guest on. I gave them the questions ahead of time, and the goal is just to answer the questions and just hopefully for you and the audience to be able to connect with, Kyle and his story. So, what we'll do is we'll start at the beginning, Kyle. So, what was growing up like for you?
Yeah. So for me, it was, my parents divorced very early. I think I was one or two, when they divorced. So I really had no frame of reference on, what it was like to have my parents married together and things like that. So from a very early age, it was okay, you're spending some time with mom and then you're spending some time with dad and you're kind of going back and forth there. But the thing I'll say about that is my parents were very, very, very good about not weaponizing the divorce and not using it to get back at one another. And they co-parented very well. I don't know that I've ever seen my mom and dad fight, or, they've gotten in arguments and things like that, but nothing, over the top. Um, and so, I was very fortunate in that aspect because that was my normal. And, you see some of those situations where, um, you know, the parents, unfortunately, sometimes they'll use their kids to get at each other when it has nothing to do with the kid. And so, again, for me, very fortunate. Um, I so lived in Sedalia very early, moved to Cole Camp for elementary school. So K through 5, I went to Cole Camp Elementary School. Um, had a great time, met some great people. And then in between 5th and 6th grade, moved to Sedalia, went to, school in Sedalia from 6th grade to 10th grade. And then in between 10th grade and 11th grade, moved to the Lake of the Ozarks, finished up school at School of the Osage. And so, um, very my family is very, very athletic oriented. My dad has two siblings, my mom has three siblings, so, big family gatherings for the major holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, things like that. um Most of my dad's family, actually both of my dad's siblings, still live on the Illinois side of the river. So, lots of going back and forth to Illinois and back, and had some great times. My aunt, I used to go spend a week every summer with my aunt because she had an in-ground pool. So I'd go spend a week up there in the summer and hang out with my cousins and spend a week in the pool. And we'd go to Cardinals games every once in a while, because they were, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes from downtown St. Louis there. So, very, very easy going. Played three sports pretty much my whole life. Actually, well, if you go through all of them, played soccer, played football, played basketball, played baseball, so always, doing something, busy with something. Um, and, I myself am an only child. So between my
Mm.
two parents, I'm an only child. But I had a half brother. My mom in her second marriage had another son. And so I had a half brother. I've had, several step siblings throughout the years. My my stepsister from my mom's second marriage, we were 3 months apart. And so, growing up, we always used to tell people we were twins. And so, we'd be like, oh, it's the craziest thing. Can you believe this? We're twins, but we're 3 months apart. So, figure that out. And so anyways, so we're still very close to this day. And she has three kids now. We just had our third kid in September. So, um, still got the big family gatherings, and when everybody gets together, it's a good time. And it's a little bit crazy because you got all the kids running around, but that's just kind of the way it's always been, and that's just kind of normal for us.
That's awesome. So then, what would you say was like your main sport or your favorite sport?
Well, for a while there, when I was Well, fifth grade through ninth grade, it was kind of, whichever season it was, that's the
Mhm.
season. Like that was my favorite sport.
Okay.
When it was football season, I was going to be an NFL player. When it was basketball season, I was going to be an NBA player. And so on and so forth. And once I got to about freshman year, I realized football probably wasn't going to be my sport because I was a certain size and everybody else kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and I didn't.
Yep.
And so I knew freshman year that I was done with football. And then, I loved basketball. I still love basketball to this day. I love playing it. There's just so much action, so much going back and forth. But I kind of knew, again, I wasn't ever going to be 6'5". I wasn't ever going to be somebody who could just go out there and dominate. And so baseball ended up being the sport that I was kind of the best at. And so that's what I started focusing on in high school. I was able to start I was able to start on varsity every game my sophomore year of high school. And so when that happened, it was just kind of like, okay, yeah, this is where I'm at. This is what I need to do. And so I still played basketball the rest of my high school career, but that was more just because I loved it and I didn't want to quit.
Uh-huh.
Baseball was my real focus.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay. So, what is the biggest struggle that you made it through?
So for me, honestly, for several different reasons, it was 2020, when everything shut down with COVID. Um, it was a situation where, we were, so that would have been my third year as head coach. So still pretty early in my coaching career. And we're about 2 weeks before actually playing games. So we had already started practice, but hadn't played any games yet. And we were supposed to, the very next week, we were supposed to get on a charter bus and go out to, Chattanooga, Tennessee, and play in a tournament. And they said, the school came and said, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. And so at that point, you knew that something serious was going on. And then it wasn't 2 days later, and now the school's, hey, can't go to school. Now we're going to take 2 weeks and then we're going to see what happens. And then, okay, well, we're going to take 2 more weeks and we'll see what happens. And so, having that, not being able to go to school, not being able to go to baseball, it just, it was such a shock to the system when my entire life had revolved around school and baseball or school and sports. And so it was a total shock to the system. We had, our oldest was 2, or getting ready to turn 2. Yes, she was getting ready to turn 2 because our girls are 23 months apart. And so, so we had a young one in the house, wanted to make sure we were protecting her and making sure that she was safe. And then, on May 5th, our second child, our middle child, Ava was born. And so it was, such an amazing thing, the birth of your child. And yet when we were in the hospital, they went from, oh, well, do you need a mask? Don't you need a mask? To, okay, now everybody's got to wear a mask everywhere. And it was a situation where, I could be the only one in the room with my wife and my daughter. And, if I wanted to leave, like I had to do all this stuff to be able to leave the hospital and then come back. And so it was such a surreal moment because here you are, supposed to be having this such an amazing moment, birth of your child. And yet it felt like, I don't know, it just felt like a ghost town. It felt like you couldn't do anything, felt like you couldn't enjoy it because you had to worry about, I mean, she's a newborn baby.
Mhm.
and all these people are getting sick and all these people are dying and gosh, I mean, we got to do everything in our power to make sure she stays safe and make sure she stays healthy because she doesn't have an immune system. And so, I think we ended up going 3 full months before my parents could come or before her family could come just to be able to to hold her with a mask on. And that was just really, really tough. You're isolated in the house. You can't go anywhere. Which, again, with a newborn baby, you're not really going many places anyways, but, just not being able to feel like you had the ability to go do anything, was so surreal and it was just so different. And then on, excuse me, on May 21st, we had a meeting to discuss how we were going to try to navigate the summer with sports. Because again, it was, small gatherings, you can't do this, you can't do that, um, and just trying to figure out how we were going to navigate that. And, I got a call in the middle of that meeting and we were kind of towards the end, so I didn't take it. And, so anyway, so when I got out of the meeting, it was my stepdad. And I got out of the meeting, I called him back and the first thing he says is he's gone. And I'm like, hold on, what's going on? What's going on? And, anyways, my little brother, my half brother, Donald, had committed suicide. And,
Mm.
and so you have all these things just kind of building up, and then you get hit with an 18-wheel truck, with that news and with that situation. So again, I'm sitting here with a barely, almost 2-year old and with a newborn, and you know not really being able to go anywhere or be with anybody. And, the only thing I could do in that moment is tell my wife, I'm sorry, but I have to go. I can't stay here. I got to go down and be with my parents. Got to be with my mom, got to be with my stepdad, got to figure out what's going on. And so, you know, it was a tough decision because I didn't want to leave, my family in that situation because, heaven forbid I go and I get sick and I come back and I bring it home.
Mhm.
But, also, I mean, that's my little brother and he's gone. And so just navigating that was extremely, extremely difficult. And, it took several years. And I don't think you ever truly get over it, but it took, I would say 2 years ago is when I finally kind of started seeing the other side of it and finally kind of started to, um, you know, getting back to, okay, today's a new day, let's, because I've always been mostly an optimist, trying to find the good in everything. And, went through some really, really dark times there. Just trying to, because again, it's always why did it happen? What could I have done? You go through all the questions. And so, yeah, I'd say about 2 years ago was able to start turning around. My wife's a saint. I mean, she's been right there by my side the whole time and been willing to do whatever she can to help. And my daughters are amazing. I mean, they're such good kids and they're vibrant, and it's so funny. My middle child, Ava, she's every time I go pick her up from school, it's like, those cars when we were kids that you would pull back and
Mhm.
then you let them loose and they just boom, they just fire off. That's my daughter. Like every time I go pick her up, like her teacher's like, okay, you got to walk to your dad now. Like you got to go slow. And she's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And then as soon as her teacher lets her go, she just, boom, she's gone. She just dead sprint right to me and almost tackles me. And so, um, you get to the point to where you realize, there are still a lot of good things happening in life. There are still a lot of ways that, um, you can impact other lives and other people, through what you've been through. You can use that pain, you can use that experience to, to help other people that potentially are going through the same thing or, you know, whatever they might be dealing with. So, but I would definitely say, yeah, that March through, March through May 2020. I mean, man, it was just one thing after another.
Dude, it's crazy for all that to happen all at the same time, basically. And the thing about that too is it's like, I mean, you never know that it can happen to you, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just
Mm-hmm.
like you just never think about it. And then stuff like that happens and dude, I can't even imagine what you went through. And the thing about grief too is that like there's no timeline on that, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not like it takes a year, 2 years, like grieving's a process, man.
Right.
And it is awesome though that you had a good support system though and that
Oh
like
man.
with
Yeah.
your family because yeah, that's crucial in that moment. But man, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And, it's, there's always days where, you're doing something or you see something or you hear a song or something and it
Mhm.
brings back, but the good thing is, and this is where my mom really helped me out, is you, as long as you focus on the good memories and as long as whatever bad memories there were, you don't remember those as much.
Mhm.
You tend to remember the good memories more. And so if you can just focus on that and you can just focus on, the good times that you did have, you
Right.
know, then, again, anytime it comes up or anytime it makes you think about it, you're not sad necessarily because they're gone. You're just sad because you don't get to have the new memories, but at
Mhm.
least the ones you have were good.
Yeah.
Um, and so, that's been another thing that I've really tried to, focus on is, you hear that song and it reminds you of something funny that happened or it reminds you of a time where you were hanging out or, there was so my brother was 6 years younger than us or than me.
Mhm.
So when I was at Osage, so when I was a senior, he would have been in sixth grade. So, we had a really tight group of friends and we were together all the time. And I vividly remember, being at my house and I don't know exactly who all was there, but it was several of us. And one of the guys was, fooling around and wrestling around with Donald and he kind of got him pretty good and he didn't mean to, but he kind of got him
Yeah.
pretty good. And you look back now and it's kind of a funny story. But again, that's the good memory that you have to
Mhm.
look back on. And so, um, those are the things that that make you smile and that remind you that, unfortunately he's gone, but you do still have those memories to go back to and to put a smile on your face.
Yeah. It's a beautiful perspective, a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's something you're currently going through that's positive or negative?
Well, so, I mean, two things, I guess, would be the two main things. So we had our third child in September, finally got a boy.
It's
So I got,
congrats.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. So I got a 7-year-old girl, a 5-year-old girl, and now a 7-month-old boy. So navigating that, has been a blessing. He's been amazing. Um, he's very, very easygoing. He's always smiling, always happy. About the only thing that upsets him is going to sleep. Um, so I'll take that. And really, he's not upset. He just gets so tired that he just gets frustrated. And, when he's asleep, he doesn't put up too much of a fight, but anyway, so that's been the one thing. And then, we're currently in the middle of baseball season. So, um, it's, it's very rewarding, very stressful, and very time consuming. Again, I couldn't do what I do if I didn't have the wife that I have. My wife, Christina, she's absolutely amazing. She's running the house from pretty much the beginning of March through the end of May. I mean, it's pretty much all on her. Like I said, we just went through a stretch here where we had 12 games in 14 days. And, so that's just kind of the nature of the beast. Unfortunately, with baseball, it's the only sport where, I mean, you can play 5, 6 times a week and that's normal. Um, and so things are going to slow down a little bit here as we get going. We only have 4 games this week, and then we have 2 games next week, and then 3 games the following week, and then 3 games for the week after that. So it'll feel a lot slower this next month.
Nice. So then to go back to your son, so have you noticed the difference between raising a girl difference to you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it is now, I guess you kind of have two things going here. So one, he's the third child. And
Uh-huh.
so, you talk to other parents who have three, and most of them will tell you the third child is the easiest. Um, and so far that has been the case. He has been the easiest. He's always eaten. He's always, like I said, he's always been happy. He very, very rarely cries. And if he cries, he has a good reason for it. It's
Uh-huh.
not just to make noise, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas, with the girls, so with Olivia, our oldest, you're in that newborn and first child and never done it before. And you're like, oh my gosh, like you're trying to make sure everything's perfect. And, um, she was a very, the word that they used was colicky, but basically she cried a lot.
Mm.
And it felt like we couldn't ever figure out why. 'Cause it was, uh, if she was fed, she would cry. If she wasn't fed, she would cry. If she was in a car seat, she would cry. It was, it just seemed like, man, like I just, are we doing something wrong? You know, and we weren't. I mean, just as any other first time parents do, you think the worst, but really it's not as bad as you think it is. You're just trying to figure it out. And so
Uh-huh.
anyways, so it took us a while and took several doctor's appointments to, you know, hey, what's going on? Why is it this way? Like, is there something we need to do differently? Yada, yada. And so it, in the end, we found out that she probably just wasn't getting enough food.
Mm.
And so she was just constantly in a state of hunger. So once we figured that out, we started, so my wife has breastfed all 3 babies and, she's done a fantastic job with it. And so we ended up supplementing with, um, formula. And when we did
Mhm.
that, things got a lot better. And, she's brilliant. I mean, she's 7 years old. She could count to 100 before kindergarten. I mean, and this is no joke. Like, through her friends at school and through her teachers at school, at daycare, she essentially taught herself how to count to 10 in Spanish. Just because she thought it was cool and she thought it was fun. I mean, she's amazing. And then Ava, she's a 5-year-old. She was, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but she was better, but then there were different things that we had to deal with her, I guess. Whereas, um, it just, she was a little bit more easygoing. But as she started to get older, she is the type that is not she's fearless. Like she'll
Uh-huh.
climb stuff, she'll jump off stuff, she'll run around. You know, she hasn't met too many things that have scared her or prevented her from doing dangerous things, or at least what a parent would perceive as
Yeah.
dangerous. And so, you know, she's the one that, um, you got to watch out because she's drawn on the walls before. She's, you know, if she's quiet, you got to make sure you find her.
Yeah.
Um, so, so it's neat to see the different dynamics with the different children, and I'm sure as Caden grows up, you know, he'll go through some times where he's ornery as well, and he finds ways to push different boundaries. But so far he's been the easiest baby.
Well, that's nice. Yeah, I see my daughter was interesting. Like she's been like the easiest kid after 2 years old.
Oh, sure,
So
yeah,
so what happened is like she was the child that wouldn't go to sleep.
yeah,
Like not like so we would get her to sleep, but she would wake up like every 2 hours, and it just lasted for like the whole first year and a half. It
hmm
was literally like waking up. And then the only way she would go back to sleep after eating would be for me to sit on a yoga ball and bounce her up and down. So
yeah.
literally talk about multiple times a night all the time. And I was like,
Oh
dang, is
man,
it
yeah.
it was wild. And then just one day, like she slept through the night. And I remember just being like, did that really just happen? And then all of a sudden it just got better. And ever since, like she's just so chill and mellow and stuff. So it's really funny because yeah, it was just I don't know, but I guess I would trade that. I'd rather have that than the opposite, I
Oh,
think, where you
sure,
have a
absolutely.
mellow mellow
Yeah, yeah,
kid, then all of a
yeah.
sudden they get all hyper and
Oh,
wild
I
and like,
know.
"Ooh, okay, eh."
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. And that's the interesting dynamic with the girls is that they
Mhm,
did kind of take that opposite path. And
mhm,
by no means is Ava, you know, she's not a bad kid. She's got a
mhm,
wonderful heart. She's, you know, she's got a heart of gold and she's always trying to help people and things like that. She just is fearless and that is very stressful. And and so, you know, it's one of those things too where, um, with Olivia was the same way. Olivia would not sleep on her own. No matter what we tried,
mhm,
no matter how hard we tried, she would not sleep on her own. And so when Ava was born, Olivia had to be in the room because she
mhm.
couldn't go to bed by herself. And, you know, if I was there, maybe we'd try to split and I'd take one and Christina would take the other. But again, during baseball season, I don't get home till after bedtime. And so it got to the point where they would all three just go to sleep together. Well, we tried to sleep train Ava and it worked for a little bit. And she did go to sleep on her own and she did sleep in her own bed for a couple of months. And we were
Mhm.
like, okay, we can do this. Like, you know, Christina, you know, she'll go put Olivia to bed and sleep with her and make sure she falls asleep. And then Ava will do her own thing. And then I don't know what happened, kind of like what you said. Just one day out of the blue, Ava started waking up and started not going to bed. And so then now it's, you know, so now, you know, even to this day, um, sometimes either myself or my wife will have to go in there and help put them to sleep. But you know, again, it's one of those things. It's like they're only going to be this age for so long. They're only going to need us for so long. So you know, even though they're 7 and 5, like, yeah, we're still going to do it. We're still going to be there. And if they need help going to sleep, yeah, we're going to do it. Because we're going to be wishing that they were still needing us to go to sleep and they're, you know, 14, 15 and, you know, and don't want to talk to us.
I know, I know. Yeah, and we gotta be grateful for those moments too. Like,
Yeah.
the saddest statistic I read once was it saying that, like, after they graduate high school, or at least when they move out, you've
hmm
already saw them 90% of the amount of time you're going to, and it's like
Oh
the
yeah.
saddest statistic that once they move out, it's like you got 10% left, and it's like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
insane.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy too, because you spend those 18 years teaching them how to be on their own.
Huh?
And then when they're on their own, it's like, wait, and I've had this conversation with my mom several times because my mom did a great job. She prepared me for being on my own. She prepared me for taking care of myself. And now she's like, hey, it's okay to come visit me more than, once a month or more than, it's okay to see each other more often. And I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, I want to, just life happens and we get busy and my mom and my dad. So my mom and my dad are separate, but they both live at the lake now.
Mm,
So we're, an hour away from both sets of grandparents on my side and her mom, is, going back and forth between here and Marshall. So, my wife's family is from Marshall. So, they're a little bit closer. We tend to spend a little bit more time with them, but we've done a much better job now with the kids of, making sure, at least with FaceTime. I mean, FaceTime has been phenomenal for our family.
mhm.
We try to FaceTime at least once a week, just check in, see how everybody's doing and things like that. So, but yeah, we make several trips down to the lake over the summer now because the girls love the lake. They love getting out on the water and, riding on the boat and doing all that fun stuff. So,
Nice. Good reason to go back too.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. So then, next question. So, who is someone who's changed your life that doesn't know it?
Man, that's a really great question. So, honestly, um, so just recently, actually, one of my coworkers, another coach, Coach Lemon, unfortunately, he passed away, from cancer. And over the last, I've worked with him for several years now, but, I didn't really start to get to know him until the last couple of years. And, he's the type of coach and he's the type of person that, you know, when you look at how he went about his everyday life, when you look at how he handled certain situations and you look at how many people he inspired and motivated and you don't really realize those things and it's unfortunate, but you don't really realize those things until you lose them.
Hmm.
And last Friday was his funeral, and to see all the kids and all the people, and he had been to several different schools and then coached at several different schools, and you had former players and former people that he had met through coaching football, and they were all there. And several of his buddies and coaching buddies were up there telling stories of who he was and how he was so impactful in their life. And, you know, thinking back on the experiences that I had with him, I mean, it makes me want to be a better coach. It makes me want to be a better teacher. It makes me want to be, just a better person on a daily basis. Um, and unfortunately, I just never got a chance to tell him that, because it happened so fast.
Yeah.
He was, for all intents and purposes, everything was fine. Everything was normal going into Christmas break. And then when he came back from Christmas break, he was, he was here and then he would miss some days and that just wasn't like him.
Mhm.
He very rarely ever missed school. And so, we got, I don't know, a couple months into second semester and finally you know, they made it public that he was fighting cancer. And, so he found out in end of December, early January, he found out and he passed away at the beginning of April. It just happened that fast. And so, again, the thing that I would say, or the lesson I learned is, for one, take an investment in people or people you think you know. Like invest in them, invest in getting to truly know them. If they're willing to invest their time in getting to know you, then, absolutely return it.
Uh-huh.
Because, those relationships that you build, um, you never know where the moment is going to happen, or where the person is going to be that's going to do something, or be a certain way, and it's gonna like you said, it's gonna impact your life. It's gonna make you want to be better, or make you want to change, and so rather than just waiting for it to happen, just go out and enjoy every moment, go out and invest in every moment, and don't wait to find out, like, is this going to be good or is it not? Because you'll find out pretty quick. I mean, you'll realize pretty quick whether it's worth investing or not. And if it
Right.
is worth investing, dive in. Um, you know, buy, however you want to say it, buy in, sell out, you know, whatever the phrase you want to use, because um, there's nothing. You want to surround yourself with good people, and um, you don't want to look back and go, man, that was a really good person, and I didn't get to know him that well. I didn't get to really truly experience how good they were. And so, that's kind of what I would say I not regret, but one thing that I wish I could have told him before he passed.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, we mentioned that earlier, right? It happens all of a sudden, and you never know until
Hmm.
what happens. But I mean, that's honestly why I created this question, because I mean, I'm guilty of that. It's like wait until it's almost too late and not telling people that actually impacted me. I used to be terrible at that too. Like I
Oh,
just never
sure.
even like stopped to think about like how someone impacted my life. And then the older I get, the more I'm like, man, like I just want to start telling people. Like
Yeah.
if they did,
Oh,
like tell them,
absolutely.
because I mean, because that's kind of how it is with life, and I'm sure you get this as a coach too. Like I'm sure you've impacted people tremendously through coaching, and I'll bet you you're only going to hear from a very small percentage of people that you're doing a good job, or like thank you
Right,
coach or
right.
whatever, right?
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's one of those things is like most of the time we're not going to know how much of an impact we make, but so when you can go out of your way to tell somebody, I think that's just a good feeling, I guess, because
Hmm.
I mean, I would wanna know that too. It'd be nice to
Yeah.
know if, how you impacted someone, so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think, to go along with that, I think it's a situation where, again, you never truly know what anybody else is going through.
Of course.
And and giving them that vote of confidence, or giving them that boost of, like, hey, like, I love what you're doing. I love what you're about. Like, you know, keep doing what you're doing. Keep fighting the good fight. Things like that. The more people hear that,
Uh-huh.
the more confident they're going to be. The more, truthfully, I mean, happy is probably the right word. Like, you're gonna, like, I don't know anybody who can be complimented and then be mad about it. You know what I
Exactly,
mean?
yeah. Yeah,
So, like, the more compliments we can put out in the world, the better.
agreed, yeah. I mean, everybody's going through something, and we never know. So, yeah,
Hmm.
sometimes it's small things. I mean, I've had people it's funny because 'cause I've noticed too that sometimes it's the small things. It's the things that you don't even think about. Like,
Hmm.
you could do this big grand thing and not hear much about something, but you think like that was the most impactful thing. But then you realize that like, you get a text from someone like, "Hey man, like thank you for calling me 2 years ago and
Yeah.
just talking to me for an hour." Like,
Yeah.
"Wait, what?" Like, that was
No,
just me being me, just
absolutely.
checking on, like, "No, like, thank you. I don't think you realized what I was going through." And it's like, the times you're you and you show up well, like, sometimes those are the most impactful things rather than, like, these big grandiose things. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So it's funny you mentioned that. So one of a very impactful moments in my life, was actually from Dason McNerney.
Really?
And yes, so on my birthday in 2021, and I just looked it up, and thank God I still have it, and I'm going to take a picture of it. I'm going to take a screenshot of it now so I never lose it. But on my birthday in 2021, Dason texted me and he said, Zimmy, happy B-Day, my man. It's Dace. Hope you're having an amazing day. Miss you, brother. Been thinking about you a lot lately. We need to all get together again soon. And completely out of the blue. I don't have a single other text message on this phone from him. That's the only
Wow.
text message I have from him. And I mean, to get a text like that, I mean, it's just so impactful, and it's who Dason was, you know, and to have that moment, to have that memory, it's something I'll never forget.
And it's the little things, I tell you.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Okay. So, what's a skill or talent that you could share with us?
Oh man. Well, the easy thing would be to talk about a sport.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's so many skills. I'm learning how to grill on a Blackstone.
Oh, yeah?
I've been dabbling in that a little bit lately.
Okay.
It's, you know, I'm not, I shouldn't admit it, but the first time I ever grilled in my life was 2 weeks ago. So,
Nice.
but so I definitely won't go into that because I don't know much about that. Um,
Yeah.
no, I would say that's a tough one. And I've been thinking about this question too, because I didn't want to have nothing, but
Yeah.
there's so many different things that you could talk about. And um, I'll go with, well, I was looking to see, I don't have here. I'm going to put you down for, or, well, I'm going to pick you up actually.
Yeah. There we go. Perfect.
I have a tennis ball nearby and
Okay. Sweet.
I'll talk about how to throw a baseball
Mm,
because why not?
okay. Because I don't know how to throw a baseball, so that's
There you
perfect.
go. Yeah.
I'm
So,
going to learn.
um, now I won't be able to go into too much terrible detail because I just don't have enough space, but, um, I can go through the basics. So I'm using a tennis ball, but
Okay.
it can still work because, I mean, the lines on the tennis ball are very similar to to the seams on a baseball.
Uh-huh.
So, when you're throwing a baseball, there's two ways you can throw it. If you can see here. So first of all, you see the seam up here and the seam
Yep.
down here. So if I put my fingers across the seams like this, all right, we call this a four seam throw. So I don't know why they call it four because you're only touching two, but maybe it's because you're touching it in four different places. So you're touching it here,
Uh-huh.
here, and then up here and up here. So anyways, if you want to throw a ball straight, you throw across the seams. You throw two seam or a four seam. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So now if you can see the seams like that, all right, if you go along the seams or just inside the seams, either way, but if you go along the seams like that, that is a two seam throw. And so when you throw a two seam throw, that creates a different type of spin on the ball and it is more likely to move. And so if I'm a right-handed thrower, if I throw a two seam, it's going to go straight and then it's going to curve towards my right side. To whereas if I throw a four seam, that's going to stay more true, more straight at my target.
Uh-huh.
Whereas if I'm a left-hander, okay, same concept. If I'm across the seams, if I'm a four seam grip, it's going to go straighter. And then if I throw a two seam, if I throw with the seams, it's going to go straight and towards the left side. And so if you're watching a baseball game and they're talking about whether the pitcher throws a two seam or a four seam fastball, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about
Mm.
how they're holding the ball when they throw it. And usually, typically, left-handed throwers are much more likely to be a two-seam grip
Mm.
because, for lack of a better way to say it, there's not as many left-handed throwers. And so with the way that left-handers throw the ball, for whatever reason, they are able to get more, we call it tailing action. So their ball moves most of the time a lot more than a right-handed thrower. Because,
Mm.
for whatever reason, the right-handed thrower just has a tougher time creating the same type of movement when they throw. So that would probably be the easiest skill I could teach. I could go into curveballs and changeups and things like that, but I don't know if we have enough time for that.
Dude, that's sweet. See, I didn't know any of that stuff. So I assume is that I mean, and that's what the glove is for, is to disguise all that, correct?
Correct.
So
Correct.
so you can't
Yes.
see what the okay, how they're
Yep.
holding it.
Exactly.
Mm.
Because speaking as someone who both pitched and hit, as a pitcher, you are praying that the hitter doesn't know what's coming.
Uh-huh.
Because on the hitting side of things, when I was a hitter, if I knew what was coming, I was going to be a lot more successful.
Uh-huh. Like that. Cool. I just learned something new. I'm gonna have to go grab a baseball and try throwing and see
Yeah, absolutely.
see
Absolutely.
what I can do.
And so also with the four seam, because it's straighter, it usually also is faster. And
That
so
makes sense.
so two seam fastballs are usually anywhere 1 to 3 miles an hour slower than a four seam fastball.
Got it. Sweet. That's cool. And then well, this next one kind of flows into that a little bit too. So what are you learning about currently that you could teach us?
Yeah. So again, with me being mainly a position player, through my more serious years of baseball, high school, college, and professional. My kind of expertise, I guess you could say, is hitting and fielding. That's what I spent the most time learning, when I was playing. And so, I could talk about the swing for hours. I could talk about how to field a ground ball for hours, how to throw for hours. But the one piece that I never really truly learned was the pitching side.
Mm.
Because I did it in high school, yes, but at the high school level, you just don't really have the time to truly dive into all the intricacies of doing it. I mean, again, um, I go to two coaching clinics every year, and every year you're able to learn something new. I mean, that's, even though baseball has been around since the 1800s, like, you still can always learn new things, or you can always, I've seen some things happen this season that I've never seen before. And, so it hasn't changed that much, but it also has changed a lot.
Uh-huh.
And so right now I'm currently trying to learn more about the pitching side, because I feel like, as the head coach, I need to know as much as I can know about everything: base running, pitching, hitting, fielding, game strategy, things like that. Like, as the head coach, I should at least be proficient in all of it. Now I'm extremely fortunate. I have amazing assistant coaches. And so they take a lot of they take a lot of the minute details off my plate, because they're
Nice.
teaching that. They're working with the guys on that. And that allows me to see the bigger picture and to make the big decisions, because, I'm the type of coach, every day. Okay, what lineup are we going to go with? Who do we have on the mound? Not necessarily because I don't know who I want, but because I value their opinion, and because they're working with these guys every day. Whereas I might be floating from station to station, making sure I can see a little bit of everything. So I may not see everything that a player does on a certain day. And so I rely very heavily, but I also fully know and fully understand that at the end of the day, when the lineup is written down, it's my hand that's writing it, and it's my
Uh-huh.
final decision. And so, just trying to make sure that I am able to, first and foremost, make educated decisions, but then also, to do what's best for the team at all times. Am I
Mhm.
am I constantly trying to, um, you know, to make decisions that are going to help the entire team? Because at the end of the day, college has kind of moved to where it's more of a every year is completely different because you have the transfer portal now. You have, players are getting paid now. And so, with that, there has been, um, so essentially college rosters are getting older. They're older than they've ever been. And the two main reasons are the transfer portal, where they can, if they don't get the experience that they want at one school, they can just go to a different school and hopefully they get a better experience there. But also, and this just happened last year. There was a player, in Jeff City who was a very, very good pitcher and had the ability to get drafted. I mean, there were pro scouts at every single game that he pitched at. And essentially, he is going to make enough money by going to University of Arkansas that he chose not to get drafted.
Mhm.
It
Wow.
was, I mean, it was a decision where financially he was going to be better off going to college. Um, And now, University of Arkansas is an amazing school. He's going to learn a lot there. And realistically, with the way things are nowadays, he'll be there long enough that when he does actually get drafted, because I'm sure he will, but when he does, he actually might get to the major leagues faster
Mhm.
because he, essentially the colleges now are turning into the minor leagues because these kids are getting paid. And so anyways, at the high school level though, kids can't transfer, or at least not easily, not without their whole family
Mhm.
moving. And so, even though, yes, we are focused on this year, we're focused on doing the best we can this year, we also have to, okay, but what about next year? What about the year after that? How do we make sure that we're not really good this year and then really bad next year? And so you have to have that future planning. And, we actually, our athletic department, our athletic directors are amazing. And so we started a junior high program this year for baseball and softball. And so now not only do we have baseball and softball 9 through 12, but now we have seventh and eighth that are able to play baseball and softball. So, it's 2 more years that those kids can kind of learn what they're going to need to know when they get to high school. And, they'll experience the practicing every day. They'll experience the, you know, hey, I was a shortstop on my old team, but now on this team, I'm not the shortstop anymore. I have to change positions because you know what? Hey, there's somebody better than me, that gets to play shortstop. So now I have to learn a different position or I have to learn a different role. And so, that's something that is usually quite a shock to the system when kids get to ninth grade because you got 6 shortstops on your team. Well, unfortunately, we can't play 6 shortstops at shortstop,
Mhm. Yeah.
but 2 of those shortstops might be really good outfielders, or one of those shortstops might be a really good second baseman. So, it's just trying to get them to understand that, um, it's not that you're a bad player. It's just that you're good enough that we think you could also be good at a different position. And
Mhm.
so, just trying to navigate that and it's all a big puzzle. You're just trying to get the puzzle to fit together and, you hope that when you put it together, it's a really pretty picture. and it looks like it's
Mhm.
supposed to look, instead of, looking down and going, well, what am I looking at,
I like that. So a couple things you said earlier, I was that was really interesting. So one, I like that you were saying that you're still learning stuff.
Hmm.
I think that's such a good mentality to have, like that student mentality where it's like,
Hmm.
like people are like, once someone says like I'm a master at something, it's like, does that mean that you're unwilling to learn new things or that you
Yeah.
know it all? So having that student mentality, just always learning, I just think is an awesome perspective to have. And then two, the other thing that I thought was interesting is that it's weird how sports can always evolve. It is
Hmm.
so interesting because they can be around forever and there's still
Yeah.
new things happening all the time within the sports. And it's so interesting to me. One that I go back to that I think is fascinating because I don't watch baseball, but I do watch a lot of UFC.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And it's funny because there's certain things that you think like at some point you're like it's fighting. You kind of know every like there's only so many ways you can hit someone or do something, right? It
Yeah.
just makes
Yeah.
sense. And then all
Exactly.
of a sudden, these last couple of years, people started kicking the calf, and you're like, calf kicks weren't a thing. You're like, not really. Now everybody's targeting it, and it's like such an advantage now, like calf kicking. It's
Yeah.
like what?
Right.
How did that come to be? Like what's that all about? And I'm sure it's like the same way in baseball and all these other
Hmm.
sports where it's just like just something comes up one year and you're like, man, I didn't even think about that. And it's like
Oh, yeah.
it's like never going to end. They're always going to be learning something new, and it's kind of
Correct.
cool.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and it's funny because, I mean, again, the driving force is the competitive edge. Like, how do you give yourself an upper hand against your opponent?
Hmm.
And the calf kick, like, if nobody's ever done it before, nobody's ever trained how to block it. And so
Uh-huh.
if you can be better at your opponent than at that skill, then yeah, you're going to have the advantage
Uh-huh.
until people start to figure out how to beat it. And
Yep.
so that's where, you see, and specifically with baseball right now, that's where you see like the discrepancy in pitching and hitting right now. Right now, pitching is more advanced than hitting in the sense
Mhm.
of, mm, like, well, first and foremost, there's a lot of injuries with pitching. I mean, it's so bad that people are calling it an epidemic of arm injuries. And so because of that, you have so many people, exercise scientists, movement specialists. You have so many people just really diving into how can we do it? How can we do it at an elite level, and how can we do it safely?
Mhm.
And because there's been such a focus on that, I mean, again, you see guys throwing 105 miles an hour now. I mean, I couldn't even dream of somebody throwing 105 miles an hour when I was playing. It,
Mhm.
it, it never would have even been a thought. And now, the amount of guys, at least in the major leagues, but it's even trickling down to high school now. I mean, the amount of high school players that I've seen that have the ability to throw 90 miles an hour now is astronomically larger than when I played in high school. And so with that, the pitchers have the advantage because, again, I think, I don't know the exact, but basically you have 4/10 of a second to decide whether you're going to hit a baseball or not. So basically you have the blink of an eye to decide, do I hit this baseball or do I not hit this baseball? And that doesn't even factor in the movement of the pitch. That doesn't factor in, inside, outside, how far away from, and also round ball, round
Mhm.
bat. You know, it's one of the most difficult things to do in all of sport, in my opinion, because I've several times I've watched really really good football players or really really good basketball players come out to a practice and try to hit a baseball, and they just look like they've never been an athlete in their life before
Mhm.
because it's so hard. And so hitting right now is at a disadvantage because you don't have the time is next to impossible. Now, so you try to train, at those, um, high speeds, so like there's hitters in the major leagues that they'll train how to hit a 110-mile-an-hour pitch. Now, they'll never see that, but if they can hit a 110-mile-an-hour pitch, 95 doesn't look that fast.
Hmm.
And so, there are ways, but right now that's why you don't see, so for example, in the 90s and the early 2000s, you were not really considered a good hitter if you were under 300 hitter. So basically what that means is 300. If you're a 300 hitter, that means every 3 out of 10 times you're hitting the ball and getting on base. So if you weren't hitting the ball and getting on base 3 out of 10 times, you were not seen as successful. Whereas in today's game, in 2026, 2025, I think there were less than 20 total players in the major leagues that hit over 300 last year. So you're talking about 98%, 99% of the players that are playing baseball right now in the major leagues are successful less than 3 out of 10 times when they hit. I mean,
Wow.
in what other realm would that ever be successful? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you take a test, you get 2 out of 10, you're not doing very good, you know?
Nope.
Um, and so like that's where I think eventually hitting will catch up. Um, or one of two things is going to happen. Eventually hitting will catch up to the pitching, or because of all of these injuries, pitching will kind of come back down
Hmm.
because it's not sustainable when you're spending millions of dollars on these pitchers to throw a baseball and they can't throw the baseball because they keep getting hurt. I mean, eventually that can't, the value, like the input versus the output has to match, in my opinion.
Hmm.
And so, if I'm spending $50 million on a pitcher and he doesn't ever pitch the ball, why would I spend $50 million on that pitcher?
Yep.
Um, and so one of those two things I think has to happen. Unfortunately, right now, the way it's looking, pitching isn't coming down. So hitters are going to
Hmm.
have to make the adjustment.
Nice. Dude, that's cool. See, I didn't know any of that stuff. So now we got a few questions left.
Mm-hmm.
And we covered a lot today. So I love this question. So if you were to have a story from when you were born to now, what
Mm-hmm.
would that story be called?
It would be stealing the title of another book, but honestly, I kind of feel like it would be The Little Engine That Could, you know,
A
or,
little engine
or
that could?
yeah, or some version of that, something that has to do with resiliency. Um, because um, I don't I don't necessarily feel like anything's ever been placed on a silver platter for me. My mom worked her absolute, you know, she worked her tail off trying to provide for me and my brother and trying to take care of us and trying to make sure that we had everything we needed. To relocate as many times as we did and never really feel like you have a true foothold of this is where I'm from or this is where, home is. Um, and then, with sports, I was never the fastest. I was never the biggest. I was never the strongest. And, um, I actually, so I don't know if you remember this, but I got hurt in basketball my senior year
Really?
and, ended up having to have surgery and was not able to play baseball my senior year. And for a lot of people that would have ended their careers. You know, they would have just moved on with life and would have, would have gone to school, got their degree and done whatever, but for me, I don't know if I was just too naive or too dumb or what, but like n- not playing baseball was never an option to me. Like it was just, it
Mhm.
was going to happen. And so, I I went to Crowder College in Neosho, Missouri. And they said, "Hey, come down. We'll let you walk on. We'll give you a spot on the team, and whatever happens, happens. If you do good, great. If you don't, whatever. We don't have any money invested in you. So if it works out, good for us. If it doesn't hurt us." And so I got down there. I was released by the doctor the 2 weeks before I got to school, and ended up earning the starting job, ended up playing every game both years I was there, ended up going to a 4-year school, playing virtually every game those 2 years. And again, I got done with my 4 years of college, and most people would have been like, okay, it's been a good ride, it's time to grow up, time to move on. And again, I hadn't hit that point yet. I hadn't reached that moment where I was just like, okay, I'm done. And I was, again, too naive or too dumb to take no for an answer. And so I was like, I'm not done. I'm going to keep playing. So, I went to a tryout, was able to, um, make it, I made it to spring training with a team in Joliet, Illinois called the Joliet Slammers, which is an independent professional team. So independent professional is very close to the minor leagues. You get paid to play. The only difference is like you're not affiliated with a major league team. So it's not like I was a part of the St. Louis Cardinals minor league system or a part of the Chicago Cubs minor league system. It was just a different professional league. Um, And so anyways, so it's kind of like, I guess, like for basketball, it'd be like, somebody going and playing in Europe or somebody going and playing in
Mhm.
Australia. It's still a professional league. You still get paid. It's just not associated with the NBA.
Mhm.
And so anyways, so went and did that. Um, Went to spring training. I was one of the last ones to get cut from the team at the end of spring training. So I didn't make the team out of spring training. And so I was like, okay, well, that sucks, but I'll go home. And that's actually what technically when my coaching career started. I came back to Sedalia. I coached the senior legion team here. And, anyways, I got a call in July from the team I got cut from, and they said, "Hey, we lost a guy. We need a guy. Can you be here?" And so I drove overnight, got there, finished the season with them. Didn't go exactly the way I wanted it to, but that's okay. At least I got the chance.
Mhm. Yeah.
Got to say I was a baseball player for a living. Um, and so anyways, so didn't go very well. So I was not going to get brought back the following year. But again, like, and I'm sure you've had this or you've experienced this before, but when you feel like you have unfinished business, you can't stop. You got to keep going,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
so again, you still had that unfinished business feeling. And so I actually, um, I was engaged at the time to my now wife, because, uh, I wanted her to know, like, you're the one. I want to marry you. We can't get married right now, but I want to marry you. I want you to make sure, I want to make sure we're going to get married. And so anyways, so sorry, my dog is losing its mind. Um, I left home and went and lived in Houston, Texas for a month to play in a little quick spring league, basically a tryout league. And I was able to meet a manager down there. who was coaching a team out in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And so through that, I made it onto this team out in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Again, it was called the Pecos League. And you want to talk about interesting.
Mm,
That was an interesting experience. Um, just, I could tell stories for hours about that experience in and of itself. But I was able to go out there. Um, I played really well, had a lot of fun, met some guys that I still keep in contact with to this day. And, um, after that, after that season was over with, there still really wasn't any future or any opportunities to progress.
mhm,
And so finally, after that season, I had finally reached that point to where it was like, okay, like I've done everything I can possibly do. I've chased this as far as I feel like I can possibly chase it. I've had so many great experiences. It's time to go home. It's time to get married. It's time to start a family, do all those things. And so, but again, none of that happens if I give up after I get injured or if I give up at the end of college. All of those experiences that I'll never forget never would have happened if I just would have stopped. And
mhm.
so, that's kind of where the title I think comes from.
I like that. I like that. That's awesome, man. It's so cool because in those moments, we like people have two options. And you said
Mm-hmm.
it is like you can either injury happens, you can feel bad about it, and you can just stop doing it altogether, or
Mm-hmm.
you can use that as a way to, you know, almost like resilience, right? Use that as something to
Mm-hmm.
propel you to move forward. And that's dude, and that's awesome that you chose that one, right?
Yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah. Hey,
so I love that.
best decision of my life for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so we got two more things. So I always like to put a part of the podcast where this is kind of your opportunity to share whatever you want. So if it's promoting any business you have, any social, if you want to just let people know where they can find you, if you have anything you want to talk about that we didn't talk about, this is kind of like your little 5-15 minutes, whatever you want to take in
Sure.
order to talk.
Um, I don't really, I mean, I use social media, but I don't really post that much on it.
Uh-huh.
Honestly, that it's another tool that I use to learn. Because, there are so many people that do post a lot of things on social media. And so I'm smart enough to find that stuff and to use it, but I'm not really smart enough to put my own stuff out there. So, I mean, I'm not really I won't give you that stuff because if I
Yeah.
do, you won't really see anything on it. But anyways, no, I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Um, if I could expand on anything, you know, it's so I was reading the other day, um, there's a book out there called The Power of Moments. I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to. But one of the quotes from the book is basically, life is all about moments. You're never going to remember the day to day. You're never going to
Uh-huh.
remember every single thing that happens, but you are going to have moments throughout your life that you'll remember and that you'll never forget. And, you're not always going to know when those moments are when they happen.
Right.
But if I could go back to what we talked about earlier, if you're investing your time, if you're investing your mental capacity to stay in the present, right? Not worry too much about the past, not try to look too far into the future. If you can find a way to stay in the present as much as possible, that's where I feel like you maximize the moments that you will remember. You maximize the moments that you can look back on and that impacted your life, or that you can use as experience, or as a way to help someone else. So I think you're about to get, yeah, I think you're about to maybe, yeah, my dog, my dog Rosie, about to make an appearance. Say hi, Rosie.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hi.
But anyways, like if I could, try to get people to understand anything, it's that it's, you know, try to maximize as much as you can, try to enjoy, um, as much as you can. And yeah, there's times, go do something that you would never ever do. Like if
Yeah.
there's something that you've thought, man, I wonder what it would be like to do that. Go do it. You know, the
Mhm.
worst that can happen is you go, oh, okay, that went exactly how I thought it would, you know.
Yep.
But then other times it could surprise you and it could go, oh man, like that's not at all what I was expecting. And that could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. But,
Right.
you know, it's better to, it's better have lived and tried than to have not ever tried.
100%. And it's all a learning opportunity too. At the end of the day, if it
Hmm.
goes horribly wrong, you learn something, right?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The saying goes, you learn more from losing than you do from winning. And so,
100%.
sometimes sometimes you got to lose in order to learn.
100%. Okay, so this is the last thing we do on the podcast. One of my favorite things is what we do is we had the previous guest create a question for you, not knowing it was for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you're going to create a question for the next guest. So
Okay.
are you ready for your spontaneous question?
Yeah. So I think a question. Hmm.
Well, hear me. Let me give you your question first. How about
Oh,
that?
oh, okay, okay, okay.
I'll do that. Are you ready?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, what was the last thing you cooked for someone really important to you?
So, okay, that's a great question. So, like I said, I've been dabbling in grilling on the Blackstone. So the last thing I cooked on the Blackstone was it's not you don't it's not stir fry. Um anyways, it was chicken, fried rice, and the vegetables that go with it. Um why can I not think of it? Hibachi. That's what it was.
Okay.
Chicken hibachi. Made that for the wife and kids. So now I had help. I don't want to say I cooked it by myself. I did
Yeah,
have
yeah.
help, but I did most of the dirty work. So that would be the most recent thing that I cooked for someone that was important to me.
I like that. Okay. Now, what question do you want to leave the next guest?
Okay, so bear with me here,
Okay.
but this is a question that I ask most of my students, and it's kind of
Okay.
out there, but I think you can learn a lot about a person when you ask this question. So it's kind of long. So like I said,
Okay.
bear with me. Imagine that at the end of the day, you have to get on a spaceship and you have to leave Earth, never to return. Before you leave, you're allowed to have one meal, or you're allowed to eat at one restaurant. The answer could go either way there. So, what meal or what restaurant would you eat at before getting on the spaceship, never to return to Earth?
Hey, what would yours be?
Oh, mine 100% would be Olive Garden, the seafood Alfredo. 100%. I could eat that. If I lived closer to an Olive Garden, I would eat it a lot more than I have. But I
Nice.
mean, that's an easy one for me.
Sweet. Okay, so one thing that I always do, so just like I'm not going to answer your question today,
Hmm.
but every 10 episodes, I go back and I recap the episodes I had, and then
Okay.
I answer everybody's questions. So you are episode 57, so you only have to wait a few more.
Oh,
And then when I
nice.
get to
Okay.
60, I'll recap and you'll get to hear my answer for
All right,
that. So,
I will be for sure checking that out because like I said, I think you can tell a lot about a person in, you know, and how they answer that question, even though it is a little bit of a silly question, but,
mhm,
you can learn a lot and it tells you a lot about a person.
I like that. Okay. Well, hey, Kyle, I'm so glad that you hopped on the podcast. Glad I got
Yeah.
to get you on here.
Oh man.
We only had to reschedule once, too. That's not bad at all.
I know. Yeah. Well, you know, like I said, it was a long 3 weeks there. So now things are
You're
slowing down a little bit. I thank you so much, first of all, Ricky, for having me on. I mean, this is
welcome.
incredible what you're doing. You know, giving people a platform because again, like we talked about earlier, you never know what is going to impact anybody. And, you know, so having the platform to just talk and to just, you know, talk about experiences or talk about, you know, things that you've done or things that you've been through, you know, you're giving people opportunities and outlets to feel good about themselves. So I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Awesome. Okay. So, what's one thing you want to leave the audience with before we close out?
So, I'm going to leave with one of my favorite sayings and it's from Jackie Moon. And I'm drawing a blank on the name of the movie. Um, but
Talking about, what is it?
it's a Will Ferrell character. It's
Semi
a
pro.
yes, semi-pro.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
So Jackie Moon, he they're in the locker room, and guys are getting in an argument, and he goes, "Hey," he goes, "ELE." He goes, "What does that stand for?" And they're like, "I don't know." He goes, "Everybody love everybody."
Yep.
And I just, ever since I've heard that, I've loved it. I've used it for years. Because again, you know, it's funny, but it's also, I mean, again, why not? Everybody love everybody, you know?
Yeah. 100%.
If everybody did love everybody, it'd be a lot better world. So,
100%. And that's why I like this podcast, because I think when people get to know people at a deeper level, we realize there's so much more we have in common than we have different.
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You
100%.
know? Awesome. Well, Kyle, thanks again. And on that note, we'll close down the podcast. So thanks again, and I'll catch you later.
Yep. Thank you, Ricky.
See ya.